We're good?
Are we good?
Mm-hmm. What was Huey's name?
Oh shit! What was it?
Jack.
Josh.
No, John.
Josh.
Josh.
Yeah.
Damn. I fully like.
That would be
I was
such
like,
a funny cut. Too.
I think we can keep that in.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Because I fully wanted to start talking about him. And I was like, what's his name? His name is Huey.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah,
he doesn't, you know.
Yeah.
But I liked Companion.
I did too. Yeah.
It was a fun watch.
It was a fun watch. I wasn't particularly like shocked or ever really that scared. But the acting performances are so well done.
Yeah. It definitely played more like a thriller.
Yeah.
And I liked how they, everything that happened to Iris can also happen to women in real life. So that was interesting. But yeah, the performances really sold it for me at the end. For me to be happy that I watched the movie.
Yeah,
you know?
like went to the theater.
I went to the theater and I had that experience. Yeah, that helped me.
I thought Sophie Thatcher's, I really think that she's going to be the next big star. At least I hope so, because I think she's been such a fantastic performer thus far. It's interesting with her portrayal of Iris in this movie. It is so different from, I mainly know her as Nat from Yellow Jackets or Young Nat. Love that show. But that character that she portrays on the show is so brooding and independent to a fault almost, because she's never really had an adult to rely on, which is totally different with Iris because Jack Quaid's character really is infantilizing her in a way, because she's a robot and essentially he brought her into this world and she's nothing more than, what they call them, sex bots? Yeah, ew. But his kind of misogynistic, disturbing thoughts as to like reasons that he didn't work with other women that he'd previously dated was all centered around the fact that all of those women had too many opinions. And so he wanted a sex bot to shut her up. Yeah. Hi there, my name's Becky.
Hi, my name is Sahiti.
And you're listening in on another episode of Final Girls Guide. Our episode this week is Bloody Romance.
Yes. So, we were talking about The Companion.
Yes.
Yes. Did you guys want to talk more about Jamo Young White's role as Teddy and how he just kind of disappeared?
Oh,
he did?
Yeah. I was really confused. I made us sit in the theater after because I was like, there has to be an after credit scene or something. Like, we need to know what happened to Teddy.
Yeah.
And we never found out, which is fine. Like, I don't know if that was the intention, was just Teddy, like, all men are so minimal or, like, not supposed to be listened, not heard or cared for in this movie, which I'm fine if that's the take. But I don't know. I'm still sitting here thinking, like, okay, Teddy helped her, rebooted everything for her, but we see his van in the driveway at the end when she's leaving. So I'm like, where the hell is Teddy?
Yeah.
Kill him?
I hope not.
Know. Because honestly, at the end of the movie, I didn't even... I did clock that he didn't have an ending to his story.
Yeah.
But to me, it just felt like the end of the story is hers.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to take away from that with him. And also, I think him being so well known was also like, oh, we know him. We want to see what happens to him. Like, if it was like a known character, like a known actor or like some known person, brought us more into the the confusion of like what happened to him at the end. If it was maybe like a lesser known, like not well known actor or somebody, maybe I wouldn't have cared that much. But I was a little thrown off by that, but in the end I was like, okay,
you're like fine with it. I guess I'm fine. Like it's at rest for me now. But they kind of like less brutally Drew Barrymore'd him, like what happened in Scream. I was like, but she got an ending. He's just
that's true.
Yeah.
I did like the ending though. I was waiting for how brutal it would be, because that was another thing. That was another thing we discussed of like, it very rarely, like, you have to pick the movies in which it works where you give away the plot in the beginning. She opens with her dialogue. And I'm not gonna spoil it if you guys want to watch, but she opens with the plot of the movie, and it's very hard to keep people guessing and keep the mystery up and keep the horror up when you know what's coming.
Exactly.
But other than that, the element of the feminism part of the movie, or the aspect of, I forgot his name again, I'm sorry.
Josh.
The aspect of Josh talking to her like she's Alexa, like she's an AI assistant.
Iris, go to sleep.
Yeah, that was, because you kind of know what she is, but the fact that it's so demeaning that he was using that kind of language towards her, and
I mean, he just really didn't give a shit about her in the end.
Nope.
I don't even know if that character, and I like that we still got a very minimal look at how he is and what made him into who he is today, which I appreciate because it's supposed to be Iris's story, as you said. But like, there's so many theories as to why he's the way he is, why he's so lacking in love, because in the other relationship that's portrayed with a sex bot in the movie, we do see that they have this strong connection and like loving bond, but it's almost like Josh is incapable of that. But I don't really know what that means, but it's scary because it's so relatable. I mean, people joke on the internet all the time about failed situationships, failed relationships. I mean, cheating is getting blown up more than I feel like other times, because we're able to post a TikTok, 15-second TikTok. My boyfriend cheated on me. That sort of thing.
While doing your makeup. Story time.
Story time is how my boyfriend bought a sex bot.
Definitely very incel vibes. And I do feel like there was a sense of insecurity and inadequacy in both the characters who bought the sex bots. Definitely the relationships were different, but it was still, like, it wasn't okay either way.
No.
It was very incel. It was very not okay both times. But with Josh in particular, I think in a few movies right now, I feel like I'm seeing the pattern of like, oh yeah, AI is there, but humans are the problem. Like, it's
they're
not
abusing
just
it.
It's not like AI overtakes the world, or world domination through robots or anything like that. It's still the human aspect.
Humans are
like
ruining
humans
everything.
are going to they're going to be the villain
the end of
at the end of the day.
End of days. I feel like I agree. I guess I didn't think about it that way, that it is humans abusing the AI. And it's interesting because, like, Planet of the Apes and so many other movies we see where humans are abusing nature. So I think that's a fun little, I don't know, I guess ploy to put in there. Another hidden layer.
And it could be like a trope that we see
becoming more
common.
Well, because AI is always the enemy usually.
Exactly.
With Josh and Iris, they're a pretty disturbing portrayal of modern day romance. But do we want to dive a little bit into some of the worst horror couples of all time?
Yes. Yes.
All right, let's
do that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Strange Darling,
which I haven't seen.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been my first pick, but
Okay.
I'm very happy that I watched it. I think the subversion of expectations is so well portrayed in that movie. There is a final girl. She is, all the attention is on her, and all the fear is directed towards her situation in the beginning, and she's very, it's very believable that you would root for her in the movie. And as it turns out, she's actually the villain.
Oh.
So, because you haven't watched this movie, I don't want to go too much into it, but as per, if we're talking about romance, it starts with a one-night stand and it goes wrong, and you think that her partner, who she had the one-night stand with, is, a creep, or he's like not the best guy. Yeah. And there are certain aspects of his character which like are very, like we were talking about in Companion. In the beginning, you see things that he says, or you like feel like, oh, why did he say you can never lie to me? Like things like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed a movie where the woman is the antagonist. It was really done well.
That is interesting.
It wasn't played for like, oh, this is going to be like a move or like a gimmick or anything like that, and it was done really well.
I like that they're kind of leading you off too. Yeah. Especially if it's him being portrayed as a creep.
Yeah.
What is it that we have the same mentor in film school? Yeah. And what is it Chris is always saying?
He says a lot of things.
He does say a lot of things. But basically that we need to always have sort of hidden things in there, especially in thriller and horror.
Yeah.
That you think things are going one way and then you're wrong.
Yep. Yeah. And especially for me, like I love trying to guess what happens next.
Me too.
I love I love being right, like in my guesses. Like I love knowing that, oh, I predicted that.
But I really appreciate when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I like, if I'm wrong, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was coming, which is rare.
But and what about yours?
Yeah, my pick is Barbarian, and it's Tess and Keith.
Nice.
What I really loved about that movie overall is, in the beginning, it kind of comes off as like, is this kind of a rom-com? Because Tess and Keith have both overbooked for the same Airbnb. But there's a lot of crazy shit going on at that Airbnb in the basement. But at first, like, you're like, okay, I mean, also it's Bill Skarsgård playing Keith. And from Pennywise and so many other huge characters, villains that he's played, he's not exactly the guy that you're like, oh, he's going to be the sweet one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, I mean, he's killing it in the horror genre of Nosferatu, but the man could really kill it at a classic rom-com.
Yeah.
He really could, because he's so charming, he's so good-looking. And him and Tess have such great chemistry in the beginning. And it's kind of like this meet cute. Then there's little noises going on. Mm-hmm. Doors opening. Not really sure what's going on. Cut to Keith is brutally murdered. Head banged against a wall. Brains and guts all over the walls. Yeah. Wow. That's how they did him in. And it's pretty quick into the film that they do that. But what I enjoy about it is, like, in the beginning, it's coming off as, like, a rom-com, which has been it's totally been the pick as, like, this is a chick flick. I mean, that's where chick flick stemmed from, were rom-coms. Mm-hmm. And, it's patronizing to women that are trying to get into film, and also just all women that want to watch movies.
Yeah.
For that to be stereotyped as always the kind you're going to like. But then they have this huge twist, and we're settled up with our final girl, Tess, and she goes on a wild adventure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that, like you said, it is insulting to female audiences.
Yeah.
But what I love about these type of films is that women are driving
the story.
Audience. No, women are driving like ticket sales.
Oh yeah,
in the theater.
yeah, totally.
And so it's such a great experience for us to know that we're being catered to.
Yeah,
like especially when you go to watch a movie, and it might not. It could be for everyone. It could be like a generic type of horror movie.
Yeah.
But when you know that they've understood the female lens and they're creating the story, keeping that in mind. It's a nice addition.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to spoil it, but what ends up being who we thought was the antagonist in the end of Barbarian has a very sad as tragic of a backstory I think I've seen in years for an antagonist. And it's very powerful because the protagonist and the antagonist are both speaking so much to the female experience. And the sort of things that can go wrong.
So we have your main picks for like the worst couples in horror. So who would be your dishonorable mentions that really stick out to you?
Yeah. I would say my dishonorable mention, I think, is Annabelle. Not because I don't like...
Annabelle from Annabelle?
Annabelle from Annabelle, yes. The infamous Annabelle. Because obviously the final girl in that movie is Annabelle. But I wanted more from that movie within the dynamic of husband and wife. I was... Not that I want an exact replica, but I really love Rosemary's Baby as a movie. And although the circumstances around that movie are horrible and bad,
yes,
I was hoping for more of like a isolating feeling and diving more deep into how Mia, the mother, would feel alone and how, the demonic presence...
singled her out.
How that can be isolating, and relating that experience to actual motherhood and gaslighting and all of that. I wanted to see a little more of that.
And there wasn't a ton.
They
were just a nice couple.
Yeah. And which is refreshing for sure. Yeah. But when there was already so much of a build up, right, with Annabelle, I mean Annabelle, I think we had already seen Annabelle.
Yeah, we saw Annabelle in The Conjuring already. Yeah.
Yeah. So when all of that finally came to the forefront in Annabelle, the movie, I was expecting a lot more of like commentary on that. And then at the end, like, when there's an extra character added, that she's going to be used as the death in the end because the parents are going to be happy and they're going to survive. And the extra character felt like a crutch, so that the worst things wouldn't have to happen to the main family and they survive. And of course I feel like that's a running theme in that series of movies. But yeah, that would be my dishonorable mention.
That's your dishonorable mention. Yeah. Interesting. My dishonorable mention, I don't think you've seen this one, but it's Misery from 1990.
Yeah.
Based off a Stephen King book. I mean, it's what made Kathy Bates. I mean, that's what sold it for me with Kathy Bates. I, of course, wasn't alive when it came out, but that's one of the first movies I watched of hers. And it's Annie and Paul. Paul's a writer. He gets stranded in the woods. He's like a romance kind of, I think it's supposed to be like smut, but before they were using the word smut, romance novelist. And his whole series is called Misery. And it's about this main character named Misery, whatever.
Creative.
Yeah, creative. I mean, yeah. But Annie is a super fan of Paul's. Huge fan.
Oh.
Like, biggest fan ever. Yeah, okay. Very obsessive. And it's kind of weird. She's like, I think the character's supposed to be in her 30s. And she's just isolated on her own in these woods. It's like, you don't want to be around more people. Like, you're settling down this early. But she does. And she rescues Paul after his car accident and starts taking care of him. But things aren't really what they seem, because slowly she's asking Paul for more. Like, kind of wanting him to give her more information about what's going to happen next for her favorite leading lady. Well, then she reads what he has next. And that's when things go crazy. She reads that he wants Misery to die. Well, not once. He kills Misery off in this next book. And Annie loses her fucking shit. Not to be so crude, but she does. And there are legs that go missing. There's torture.
Oh my God.
Definitely some, like, nurse-style abuse. And
Got it.
Paul's got to figure his way out. But they're not really a romantic couple, but there's, like, romantic undertones there because she thinks Paul understands women in such a different way.
Yeah.
But Paul's not a perfect protagonist, where he is a little misogynistic. He's a little jaded from what fame and the, like, failed relationships have done to him.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, they are still sort of, I don't know, I see them, and I always see them as the pair. So, to me, they're a couple, but kind of similar to my first pick, they never make it.
Yeah.
So, with the time we have left, do you want to dive into how horror is able to uncover, like, the inner turmoils of relationships?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think horror is such an, and it's similar to both of our picks, but horror is, I mean, all film is kind of exploring relationships, but horror, usually you're not following a single couple the whole way through. Like, that's not a typical leading character thing you're going to see. Like, either if a boyfriend gets killed off in the first 5 minutes or something else. So there are those rare instances where we are literally seeing a couple throughout most of the film. So for me, what comes to mind is Midsommar. Yeah. And that couple in that film is on the brink of a breakup, which is kind of rare for pretty much all film, because I feel like that's such a iffy time to go through, and that's such a personal thing for people that filmmakers are kind of scared to portray what your headspace is like when you're both on the brink of a breakup. Mm-hmm. But you're doing it because you think you're not going to find something better. And I think it poses the question of like, why stay in something if it's not already working very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what horror does so well, mm-hmm. with, like, what you said of, like, such private relationships.
Yeah.
And if you can bring that into a horror movie, it makes it all the more scarier, because it's what many people might be going through. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, out there like sci-fi, or it's not like, anything like that, but it's more of a commentary on, oh, this happens to people.
Yeah.
And what if we took the situation and made the worst happen?
Exactly.
Which is why romance does so well in the horror genre. Yeah. Because we see a lot of bad things happen in romantic relationships all the time around us. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I was thinking, like Pearl, that is kind of a bit like Misery, I think.
It is very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is obsessive to...
She's a Pisces.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can see her character slowly descending into madness in that movie.
Yeah.
And it's still centered and anchored in romance. It's all her motivation. It's everything she does is because of romance, for romance. Yeah. So.
But it does it in a way that it's exploring the worst of what you're willing to do for love.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a fun thing, again, to play with, because we're constantly getting, I mean, audiences, I will say for romances, I'm sure, I haven't really looked at the demographics because I'm not really a romantic storyteller, but as far as audiences go, I'm sure that there are predominantly probably female audiences for those numbers, which makes sense. But for us to blend that in the way horror does into other genres, so it can be wide open, but it's also women really seeing themselves for the first time in something, or maybe even contemplating like a weird thought in their head or something. Like maybe people have thought of killing someone with a what's it called, like a what's the hay thing called, pitchfork, right? She kills him with a pitchfork. Yeah. I mean, maybe you've thought of killing that F-boy from earlier with a pitchfork, but don't do it, because the worst can happen.
Yeah, we don't condone violence.
Yeah, we don't condone violence, no. But, yeah, and there's just so many films that are able to dabble with that. I mean, The Strangers comes in my head.
Right.
The original.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's right after she just said no to marrying him, which is interesting because, like, I feel like still to this day, that movie came out when I was a baby, or maybe even before, but still to this day, we're not seeing women, we're always still kind of being fed the idea that women are always the one pushing the question of marriage, which is something you and I have talked about a lot just as friends, like people being like, do you want to get married or whatever, and I rarely hear people ask that to most men.
Yeah.
So
we rarely see men being the ones who, I mean, are asking or are being more determined to get married.
Yeah.
In an obsessive way.
Yeah.
Not in like a nice way, but
yeah. But just that it's always a question being poised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that was a great way to wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
Just ranting about some other bloody romance movies.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for listening. And we have a Comfy PJ episode coming up, which I hope you enjoy.
Yeah. My name's Becky.
My name is Sahiti. Stay alive till next time.